Hi, I'm Brendan Farrell, Senior Game Designer on Warcraft Rumble.
And I am Karen Huning, and I'm a Senior Animator on Warcraft Rumble.
It's such an interesting game in terms of design. You have a little bit of RTS in there, a little bit of deck building. It harkens back to like almost the Warcraft 3 era, a little bit of tower defense as well. How do you mishmash all those together so they work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like to say that, I'd like to believe that we mix them together very well. So, like you said, we have strategy roots, sort of top-down strategy that harkens back to the Warcraft era. But we have a lot of other like really fun features and gameplay modes for players to engage with. So we have this huge range of different minis with different abilities. There's a really dynamic sort of countering system going on. So flying minis usually do better against ground-based minis, and then ranged minis do good against flying minis. But then we also have squads and AoE and single target minis, and all those play together into that sort of strategy element. But then we have all sorts of other things going on too. We have guilds, we have PvP, we have a massive single-player campaign that's filled with all these like super lovingly crafted missions with all these great characters, and it's tons of fun.
What I also really like is the collection aspect of our game, because you can collect all these different minis, and they're all from the Warcraft universe. And we really try to give them each a distinct personality. And like when you're playing, you see them on the screen and they're really small. But when you level them up, that's really our chance as an animator, in particular, to give them like personality and more detail.
Like absolutely adorable art design from an animating standpoint. Like their toys, like what does it open up for you creatively? Do you get to do more because it's not hyper realistic, or like they do have that still wow kind of design, but like it's different though. It's not Hearthstone-y, it's not Warcraft, it's like its own thing. Like what does it open up for you creatively as an animator?
It opens up many possibilities in terms of animation. For instance, when we developing the deploys of a unit, when you drag it on the battlefield, they jump up from the pedestal. And we started out very toned down, but because it's so small, you really have to exaggerate the movement. So from top down, it looks fine. But if you look from the side, you'll see the character like way stretched up. And we just use that squash and stretch to give the illusion of motion blur. And yeah, in that term, we can just really push our animations because it has to be clear what the character is doing on your screen. Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception when you're making something like this, like Warcraft Arc Like Rumble? Oh, sorry, Arc Like Rumble is the old title. Yeah. It's Warcraft Rumble now.
Yeah. Warcraft Rumble has been designed from the ground up as a mobile game. So everything about it feels good on mobile, in my opinion. So our team has done a fantastic job of making like even the core action, just like dragging these minis onto the field, very like tactile. It just feels really good. And you go into the menus and you hit the buttons, and the way they animate and the way you can move around the world map and all the sound effects that play when you interact with the interface, it all just feels great and oozes charm. And so what I would say to anyone coming into this, whether they're a Warcraft fan or a fan of mobile games, is to just come in and give it a shot, and I think you'll have a great time. There's so much going on. There's so many activities for players to do. There's tons of cool minis to collect. There's so many missions to go, and I think whether you're a mobile gamer or a PC gamer, I think there's something in Rumble for everyone to enjoy. Even if you have no exposure to the World of Warcraft universe or story, we still want people to be able to come in and just enjoy the game for what it is. It's just tons of fun, and there's just so much to do.
So you guys, instead of calling things races in the game, you call them families. Can you give us an idea behind that logic? And are you going to continue to expand, like add new families, races into the game, and and why they're called families instead of races, like Undead Race Pack, right? Like
absolutely. So there are 5 families in the game: Alliance, Horde, Beast, Undead, and Blackrock. And so families in Rumble are sort of they all belong to like that identity from the World of Warcraft universe. So like all the undead minis, right, look undead and they belong there. But more importantly, there's sort of a thematic connection. You don't have to play them together, but if you do, you'll recognize their strengths. So for example, Alliance minis focus a lot on like armor and healing. So they're really like stalwart and persistent, kind of like one of the embodying characteristics of Alliance in World of Warcraft. Or we have Beast minis who are like fast and kind of savage, and they'll deal a lot of damage. And there's a lot of squad-based minis in the Beast family. So you deploy one mini and you get 3 or 4 copies of the same character on the field. And so there's a lot of synergy there. You can mix and match minis from different families, of course. There's a lot of synergies and strategies with the different minis and their abilities and talents and relics. There's a lot going on. But families come into play a lot with leaders. For example, Karen has a passive where Horde minis near him gain 20% extra health. And so then you have to think, okay, I have Karen who's a Horde leader. As my leader, what other minis do I want to add to this army? Every Horde mini I add is going to get that bonus if they're near him. But maybe he also synergizes really well with, some heartbeats from the Beast family. And so maybe you sacrifice one of your slots there. So some of it's like for fun and lore and building, and a lot of it's for strategy and how all those synergies sort of work together.
And Karen, a lot of these units we've seen in Warcraft universe, Warcraft 3 in like an RTS top-down perspective. Did your animation team look at, past games and seeing like how do these units move back in? How did the footmen move? How did they raise their shields? But then also look at Warcraft because that's a much closer perspective.
We took a lot of inspiration out of the original Warcraft series. Like we have deep strategy roots in that regards. And as an animation team, we certainly looked at the animations of those games as well. And we even started out with the style of Warcraft 3 in our game. And we quickly found out that on a very small mobile device, it was very hard to see what's happening if you work with such a detailed style. So we had to take a step back and distill the style enough so that in one glance you can see, oh, there's a Wars and Grunts on the field because they have these big red shoulder pads and these green arms. And in one glance you can see which unit you are fighting and what you have to find a counter for. And also in regards of animation, we had to make sure that all the animations that we make have very clear movements, very exaggerated movements, so that you can see what is the boss doing. Is he doing his special ability, or is he just doing his melee attack, or it has to be very clear. And that's been a lot of fun because we can really exaggerate our animations, and that's just, I love that style, yeah.
What do you think is the biggest misconception from like an outsider looking at an animator for video games, in specifically for video games?
That I draw. That I'm good at drawing also, yeah. I can draw, I am not very good at it, but I do everything in 3D. So I work with basically skeletons inside 3D models that I pose, and that my software interpolates between that. I don't have to draw the in-betweens myself.
So, this is a mobile game, but it's also playable on tablet. Like, what are some of the challenges? Because there's so many devices. A TV, right, is a pretty simple device, or you have a console, right, or even a PC, right? It goes into a monitor, right? But there's so many different types of phones, so many different types of tablets, different sizes. The cameras are different places. Like, how does that affect your decisions when you're designing the game?
Yeah, I think our team can speak a lot about like how it being a mobile device affects the visual development of the game. Design-wise, like the different types of devices and the different screens. For the most part, it's just a matter of making sure the game feels good, and that all of that information, visual information, is available and accessible to the player. So our UI elements will scale to different device sizes, and it's mostly about just making sure that information fits on the screen and feels good to interact with, and that everything the player needs is right there. For example, in World of Warcraft, you had these talent trees for each class that were massive and really complex, and we knew that talents were super important to have that sort of Warcraft experience even on mobile. So what we did is we took talents and we made them fit on mobile. So every mini has 3 talents. So instead of a very complex tree, you get one of 3 options, and they do really fun things. You can get talents that sort of change the behavior of a mini a little bit, or lean into their existing strengths, or make them synergize better, with other minis near them. And to me, that's a really fun example of taking something that exists on a PC game and bringing it down into a digestible form on mobile.
So, like, the big question in everyone's mind is, I know you probably can't answer it, but like, do you have any plans for PC port? I know it's so weird when you release a game that's so well optimized for tablet and mobile, and the people are like, yeah, but what about PC? I want to play it on my 90-inch monitor on my $50,000 computer.
Yeah, we've heard that one a lot. I think we'd all be super excited to see that. We can't say anything definitive, but it's definitely something we heard, and definitely something that we would, if possible, we're definitely open to considering.
There's a ton of units in Warcraft universe. I mean, I'm an old school RTS guy. I play a ton of War. I've lost thousands of hours in Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne. Things go well and just in the community, but we see more like niche units. Like, will we get like the polymorph like mages from the Alliance? Will we have the headhunters from Horde Alliance? Will we start seeing those unique units that we saw in Warcraft 3?
In general, yeah, we're going to keep coming out with new minis and new leaders, and we want to keep the game growing and living. I can't tell you exactly like if we'll get a mage with polymorph specifically, but you saw during the presentation yesterday, we have Chimera, we have Ragnar's, we have tons of fun minis planned, and there will be continuous new minis, and we'll keep listening to players and keep trying to pull minis from the World of Warcraft universe that people want to see.
When's the toy line come out? Come on, I mean, dude, come on. Like, I mean, like blister packs for these things, like at 6-inch scale, I'd buy a bunch.
Ever since I've joined the team, that's what I've wanted. I've wanted my desk filled with every mini that exists in Rumble, and I think everyone on our team feels the same way. Everyone asks that question. Everyone wants it. So hopefully soon. I can't tell you. We're gonna definitely have them on this date, but I mean, everyone wants it. It's universal.
But one thing we do have is Mini Mondays.
That's true.
So for the past 4 weeks now,
Yeah.
we've been releasing a family a week as 3D models that people can print. They're already optimized, and yeah. So at least there's a head start. I already painted my first Mini, and
Yeah.
yeah.